Hey guys, happy Friday. You've made it almost through another week, and we are looking pretty good in the tropics, except of course for Fiona, which we'll be talking about in detail here. First off, I'd like to thank all the folks who have subscribed and liked and gotten the notifications. I really appreciate that. And today I'm going to try to use the chat function. I won't be able to answer any questions during the live broadcast, but afterwards I'll stick around and answer any that may come up, because I saw a couple popped up a few days ago. So let's get right to it, because the thing I always want to do is just talk about who's under any type of potential tropical threat. And then if you're not, and you just want to not watch anymore, that's fine. Or if you want to stick around, we're going to get into the meteorology behind Fiona today, what's going on, what the models are showing. But if you're not into that and you just want to know, is it coming here? Let's talk about that first. So first off, we start with our tropical threats for the next 5 days. And as I've mentioned before, none means there's no present tropical threat in the next 5 days. Low means folks should be watching, paying attention to what's going on. There could be a tropical threat. And when I say a tropical threat, I'm talking about either a very strong tropical storm or a hurricane, something that would require you to make big preparations. In the low category, it's kind of a pay attention. There could be some effects. In the moderate category, it is more like there's going to be some effects, so take care and secure any like yard items. Prepare for possible power outages. Typically in the moderate category, I'm thinking of tropical storm force winds, maybe some higher gusts. Of course, there's the flood potential, but we're talking about mainly the things that require us to prepare for wind damage and effects from strong winds, like power outages and things like that. High means we're expecting a hurricane threat in that area, and actual means it's actually going on in terms of a hurricane actually taking place. So let's break it down first of what is under the moderate threat this afternoon, as Fiona now getting very, very close to the northern islands there, to Guadeloupe. Looks like the center is going to pass near or just north of Guadeloupe there in the next few hours here. So all of the northern Leeward Islands, as well as Guadeloupe and Dominica, under this tropical threat here. And then the U.S. Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, as well as Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. And now this is expanded up into the Turks and Caicos, and you'll see here in a second why, because the National Hurricane Center's forecast track goes in that direction, as well as the Southeast Bahamas and the Anaguas as well there. Low in the central Bahamas, and that's probably going to be the case as we go through the next day or so, the next 24 hours, but that could increase depending on what happens down the road. That's basically it in terms of the tropical threat areas. The rest of the U.S. coastline is zero, no tropical threat right now, and as well as the Northwest Bahamas and much of the rest of the Caribbean, as well as the Gulf of Mexico. Latest advisory we have is the 2 o'clock advisory. That's the stats there, and that's the intermediate advisory. So the forecast track is based on the forecast advisory. That's every 6 hours, unless a special advisory is issued because of unusual circumstances that have changed, which require an update. But typically, it's every 6 hours, so 11 a.m., 5 p.m., 11 p.m., and 5 a.m. That's when the new track comes out, notwithstanding any special advisories. When there's any watches or warnings in effect, we get these intermediate advisories. So in the East Coast, Eastern Time, it's 2 p.m., and then the regular advisory at 5 p.m., and then 8 p.m. on an intermediate advisory, 2 a.m., and then 8 a.m. for the other ones. So what we had been seeing was that the latitude here had been dropping. The storm was actually moving south of due west, which is always a little, if it's a well-developed storm or a hurricane, then it's very concerning, because south of due west is usually a sign of strengthening and pretty quick strengthening. I think this is more the case of just how I would like to say disorganized the storm is, and I'll show you that in the satellite in just a second. But winds at 50 miles an hour, moving to the west at 14. The pressure's been pretty steady here. We talk about the pressure-wind relationship. As the pressure goes down, the winds typically respond and come up. The pressure at 1,005 millibars, that's moderate tropical storm strength there. Once it gets below 1,000, we're starting to get into strong tropical storm strength or possibly hurricane. And as of 2 o'clock, 75 miles to the east of Guadalupe. So this yellow area here, this is kind of my special cone here, because when a storm is really close, you can see the outline of the hurricane center's cone there. And it's very, very narrow because the center is where it's supposed to stay in the cone 2/3 of the time. But the storm is much bigger than the center. And so I like to show my kind of modified version of the cone here, which is this whole yellow area here. That's where the tropical storm winds are possible, and even closer to the forecast track there, that's where they are expected. So through the evening, overnight tonight, the weather goes downhill in the Northeast Caribbean there, the northern Leeward Islands, and there is the 8 a.m. forecast position. And because the storm is so lopsided, there's showers and breezy conditions ahead of where the center is, and then after the center passes, the storms will come in, the wind will pick up, and so the worst of the weather is going to be following the center because it's not a perfectly round storm. So that's 8 a.m. tomorrow, so the weather is going downhill in the northern Leeward Islands there. By 8 p.m. tomorrow night, the BVI as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands and eventually Puerto Rico, the weather goes downhill. So Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, especially by Puerto Rico, and Saturday night is when the weather decreases and becomes quite stormy. Also, there's going to be a big rain threat, flash flood threat, especially in the mountainous islands of the Greater Antilles because of the terrain, and also there's an effect of squeezing the moisture out from the very tropically rich air mass there that's associated with the tropical storm. There is Sunday morning at 8 a.m., and then the storm is forecast to slow down a bit, and then it begins its turn too. That's Sunday at 8 p.m. right there. There is Monday at 8 a.m. We're going to be watching this time frame here in South Florida and especially the Northwest Bahamas as well very closely, because it depends on how sharp this turn is and that it takes place when it's expected to. That may or may not have implications as far as we're concerned. It's too early to tell what, if any, implications for us. I think by the time we get into this Monday time frame, that's when we should have a better idea in South Florida. Right now, it's not looking very likely, of course, but it's way too early to tell. And of course, it's going to depend on that Monday, that turn there in the Monday time frame. And then after that, it's into the Tuesday morning time frame here. Because a lot of the forecast tracks just skim the eastern part of the Dominican Republic there, Hispaniola, it's possible it may not get disrupted that much by the island here. And so the Hurricane Center saying there's a possibility it could become a hurricane by the time it's through the Turks and Caicos, or even approaching the Turks and Caicos and into the southeast Bahamas there. Once again, if it goes more to the left here, more to the west, the odds of a hurricane are lower, but there's enough of a chance here, I think. Hurricane Center is doing the right thing, obviously, by showing that potential for Category 1 hurricane there as we get into the Wednesday morning time frame. Let's talk about the watches and warnings. A tropical storm watch for Dominica, for Guadalupe and north. It is a tropical storm warning as well as the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, and then a tropical storm watch is in effect. That's for the Eastern Dominican Republic there. That will likely be raised to a warning either with the 5 o'clock advisory or the 11 o'clock advisory this evening. I think it's too early for the watches for Turks and Caicos, but that probably is going to be coming. So here's the satellite loop through the day today, and you can see the center there really exposed, kind of running away from this heavier shower and thunderstorm activity, which is trailing it. And if we look at the satellite interpretation there of the higher clouds, you can see they are lagging behind that low-level center. Now, anytime we get the storms that try to develop near the center, that's an indication that we might be headed towards intensification. But for the time being, that's really not happening. We do have a few little storms popping up here, but for the moment, we don't have any substantial and sustained storms developing over there in the center. Here's closer up. There is Guadalupe right there, and you can see the center getting very, very close. So once again this evening, the winds are going to shift from the north to the south, and then these showers and gusty squalls are coming. That's where the stronger winds are, and that comes in as we go through the evening. That's basically what's going on there. Let's take a look now at what is going on, what's causing all this. This is kind of our deeper dive here, what the shear profile and what the models are showing, and what may be down the road. So first off, we'll start with the shear here, and the shear is not analyzed as being that strong. And when you look at it, you're like, well, Well, the center's kind of in that area right there. Here's this stronger shear here. It's not really blowing right against the storm. So why is it so, in its appearance, so sheared? And I think what's going on here is that the atmosphere, because it has different levels and the storm is sensing all these different levels, it's kind of being pulled faster near the ocean surface in the lower parts of the storm than it is in the upper parts of the storm. In the upper parts of the storm, it's literally being kind of pushed or carried along more slowly. So this is the analysis of the lower steering winds there, and you can see they're from the west. It's a greenish color, so it's around 15, and that's in fact is the speed that it's moving. Let's look at the upper levels here, and the upper levels of the atmosphere are much, much slower. The high pressure is weaker to the north of it, so it's more of a gentle push to the west there, and only in that 5 to 10 mile an hour range. So in some aspects, this is shear, but it's not what we typically think of as wind blowing from one direction and then blowing at another direction at a different level. It's just winds at two different speeds blowing at the same direction, and that's creating this effect of shear. Let's talk about the models here. This is and let me zoom up here so you can see it, because I want to make sure we're talking about the right model. This is this morning's GFS ensemble, and one of the things that's happened is that the models have settled down. Some of this could be in part due to the reconnaissance efforts that are going on. Some of it could just be that the atmosphere is becoming a little bit more predictable. And when I say settled down, I mean this was 18 hours ago, and you can see that line there kind of pointing towards South Florida, the black line, as the model had taken kind of a swing to the west there, up that black line right there. If that had continued, it would have raised our attention here in South Florida. But that has not continued. I want to make sure that people that aren't listening and just watching, they're like, why are you circling South Florida? Because that trend has not continued. So here are the newest runs here on the GFS. Once again, a very skilled model, especially when it comes to the mean, which is that black line right there. So we like seeing that turn taking place there. All of these members over here on the right side, they're all stronger. The members here on the left, they are all weaker. And we've seen lots of storms. I think it was 2006, we had a storm called Ernesto that was coming towards us, and it looked like it was going to strengthen, and then it just got crushed by Hispaniola, and then was just a weak tropical depression that moved our way. So that's always a possibility. I think if there's any positive side of this in terms of talking about the scenarios is that if it does take more of a left track here, it's going to be more disrupted. And in that case, if it does come closer to us, it would be in a weakened state as opposed to these scenarios out here, which are stronger. So let's move forward now and talk a little bit more about the models here. That's the European model. It has trended a little bit to the right here, and it's fairly close to the GFS. It's a little bit slower here. It also has these stronger members over here. So if these solutions are to be believed, that would be the stronger scenario for Fiona. And over there on the left, that is the weaker solutions there. In terms of there is this one model that's an experimental model. It's very exciting because it's probably the next generation hurricane model that's going to be coming up, and it's called the HAFS model here, HAFS. I'm not sure I remember what the acronym stands for, but so here's all of our models this afternoon, what we call the deterministic models, the dynamic models that are all kind of trending this turn here. And you see the HAFS model, which really did quite well tracking the southwest motion. It kind of goes a little bit to the left here and then goes that way. And you're like, uh-oh, what's going on there? Well, the HAFS model in the intensity is showing a much weaker system. There are the model intensities there. Here's the HAFS model down here. So it's kind of a tropical depression or weak tropical storm here, thanks to crossing Hispaniola there. So, I mean, that's a believable scenario. I don't know if it's going to work out that way, but that's certainly a possibility that Fiona gets disrupted here, somehow ends up here a little bit more to the right, and is a weaker system heading our way. It's something we'll be watching for, but once again, I think the big takeaway is that for South Florida, as far as we're concerned, this Monday time frame, where is Fiona at that point? Is it making that turn, or is it delayed in the turn? That's going to be a big player there. We're waiting on the 5 o'clock advisory, so once that comes in, we will have that from the National Hurricane Center. I'm not going to stick around here and wait for it because it may be a little bit late today. We're a little bit early kind of ending what's going on here today. So in the meantime, if there's any comments or anything like that, please feel free to add them. I will try to answer each and all of them. Any questions that's going on. There was a question a couple of days ago in the chat that said, this HAFS model, does the Hurricane Center use that in their forecast making? They see it, but it's not in their suite of models. Their suite of models are the models that you can kind of get on the internet and look at it on the internet. The European, the Canadian, the UK model, as well as the GFS model, the US model, of course. And then we've got our hurricane models, the HMON, the HWRF, those models as well. So they see the HAFS model, but it's not when they look at their suite of models there. So that is about it. That's about what's going on. And I'm just going to hang here for a minute and leave it open to any comments that you may have. And if there's none, that's fine. I'll try to answer them and catch them in the comments section. So thanks again for watching. Be sure to like. Apparently like's a good thing. Everybody says, all the podcasters say, be sure to like my channel. So like my channel. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to get notifications too, right? All right, thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow evening. It's going to be a little bit later, probably for your Saturday topical talking. What is this called? It's called Tropical Tracks. For Saturday, we will be at about 6 o'clock there. So till then, we will see you soon.